Hi everybody, my name is Mike Wood.
And I'm Janice Lutz.
And we're going to be talking about whether or not the gray wolf should be taken off the endangered species list. To start off with a little background information, it started in the early 19th century where wealthy livestock owners demanded more grazing land, but in turn this would in fact spread into the wolf's natural habitat. And during this time, the wolves had a pretty healthy sized population, so there was a lot of conflict that started with this. And in 1906, the Bureau of Biological Survey met these demands of these livestock owners, and they began the movement to exterminate the gray wolf entirely from these lands. And agricultural operations began plowing their land, which started a lot of conflict. And they endorsed practices that are still used today, such as poison baiting, trapping, and sharpshooting, which took out a large portion of the population. In 1944, the FWS, which is the Fish and Wildlife Service, introduced wolves back in their native west, and they were mainly introduced back in small areas of isolated wilderness in Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming. And they did this just so they could kind of ease their way back in, not kind of isolated from everybody in society, so they wouldn't harm livestock like they used to be. In the 1960s, about 15 years after they were released back into the wild, the attitude of the gray wolf started to change. A further understanding of natural ecosystems came about and changed the attitude of the scientific community and national park services about gray wolves when it comes to like the food chain and the natural ecosystem, because gray wolves played a huge part in this. And in 1973, President Nixon, who was in office at this time, officially signed the ESA, which is the Endangered Species Act, which officially put wolves under federal protection.
Like Michael mentioned before, a revival of the gray wolf population began with the signing of the Endangered Species Act by President Nixon. And this was because the gray wolf was only found in Minnesota and Michigan at the time. This revival was very successful in many regions and gave a rebirth to the gray wolf. Because of this movement, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services listed the northern Rocky Mountain gray wolf as endangered. Due to the alarmingly low numbers of gray wolves, 2 years after this, the Fish and Wildlife Services approved a recovery plan in the Yellowstone National Park. This called for the reintroduction of 90 to 150 gray wolves from Canada to the Yellowstone National Park, and led to an increase of approximately 2,000 gray wolves in the Rocky Mountain area. Under this Endangered Species Act, the gray wolf has repopulated over the past 3 decades. In recent events, however, the Obama administration removed the Endangered Species Act on the gray wolf because of the size and sustainability that their population numbers grew to. This also led to the removal of the protection that the Fish and Wildlife Service had placed on the gray wolf species.
Okay, I will be arguing the side that the gray wolf should stay unprotected from the ESA, and my reasons including that they are not included on the top 45 most endangered list in the United States, which is according to BusinessInsider.com. And there's actually estimated to be over 5,000 gray wolves in the U.S. today in the Great Lakes in the West. And I wanted to bring up an example of the Kemp's Ridley sea turtle, which is one of the most endangered species not only in the U.S. but in the world. And there's believed to only be a few hundred left. And so these are resources and attention need to be going more towards these species who need it more than the gray wolf, who have a sustainable population at this point in time. We never know what the future holds, but if the gray wolf population can drop again, just like they did in recent years, but as of right now, they have a healthy population and really don't need the resources and protection like they used to. And also, rules can be placed to regulate public hunting of gray wolves, so individual states can place their own laws, and they don't have to be nationally protected. So, for example, in states like Idaho, they have wolf hunting seasons, just like here we'd have deer hunting seasons, and this describes when, how, and where you can have them. So if you live in a certain area, you can use a certain weapon to hunt these animals during a given time of year. And if you disobey these rules, you can be prosecuted to the law by either a fine or even jail time, possibly. And I wanted to pull up this chart. This is from 2009, and this is showing 5 states in the West of some carnivorous animals that have killed sheep. And you see the wolf right here has killed a total of 2,500 in 2009 alone. And this was mainly because farmers didn't have a choice. If a wolf was attacking their livestock, they weren't legally allowed to protect their livestock and kill the wolves. So this number was huge. And I mean, I don't condone the killing of wolves, but again, these livestock bring money and food for farmers everywhere, and so I believe they have the right to protect those animals. And nowadays, however, there are laws that allow owners to kill wolves attacking livestock under specific circumstances. For example, in the state of Utah, you can legally kill a wolf only if it is harassing, chasing, or disturbing your animals. If it's in the act of killing your livestock, such as if it's biting it or dragging it or something like that. And you must live in a delisted zone. There are certain areas in every state that allow the killing of wolves if they are attacking your livestock only. However, there are still zones that do not allow you to. However, there's kind of that gray area of where and when it is necessary to protect your animals. And finally, since getting taken off the protection, the number of livestock deaths has decreased significantly. Like we saw in 2009, there's over 2,500. And in 2013, when the Obama administration officially took them off the endangered list, there was only 92, so you see a significant drop. And there's also a fear, many ranchers fear for the human sake, that if the wolf population grows too large, that they can potentially spread into residential areas because their natural habitat becomes overpopulated with wolves. And so I even found a response from Idaho State Rep Phil Hart, who said that the wolf population is growing too large in some areas of Idaho and are spreading into these residential areas. And there have been reports of reports of attacks on humans and household pets. There haven't been any fatalities, but it's something that we need to look after in the future.
So I'm looking at why gray wolves should keep under an endangered species. A big worry about protecting the gray wolf is that they will overpopulate and kind of go into areas where there's human population. But the really interesting thing about gray wolves is that in the packs that they travel in, they stay in distinct territories of about 200 to 500 square miles. They can self-regulate their own breeding to make sure they don't saturate their range beyond what's available. And if the pack does exceed their number, then they can actually cast out younger or older wolves to either have them try to survive alone outside of the pack, or they can join another pack where the territory has enough resources for the wolves. If the gray wolf is placed under an endangered classification, they can maintain their own population size and not overflow areas with high numbers of wolves. In addition, without protection from the federal government, the habitat of these 48 connected states is unsuitable for the gray wolf due to human encroachment or intrusion of the wolf's own native land. Loss of habitat will restrict the gray wolf to more remote areas and reduce their habitat even further, unless the federal protection continues. By lessening their protection, they will be more freely hunted, especially if they tend to wander into a person's land, which they don't have a choice in since they're not being given protection or land in the first place. Wolves are also a keystone species, meaning they strengthen the overall health of an ecosystem. When they were previously placed in the Yellowstone National Park in 1980, they found that the food chain was said to be harmonized. Since the wolf recovery plans were written in the 1980s, much more has been learned about the gray wolf's behavior, ecology, and needs. Returning the wolves to the ecosystem sets off a chain of events that benefits many species, including songbirds and beavers that gain from return of streamside vegetation, which thrives in the absence of browsing elks, which are hunted by the gray wolf. Ravens, foxes, and even bears also benefit because they can feed off the carcasses of animals killed by wolves. Wolves are also they look dangerous and scary, but they're scared of humans as much as we're scared of them. So the reason that they would kill a human is if they were attacked in the first place. So if they're kept under the protection, then if humans don't have a chance to kill them, then they most likely will not have the chance or wanting to kill a human.